In today's episode, we are talking about why men are struggling. Why is there so much pressure to hold it all together? What impact do generational issues have on men today? And what about breaking the silence? Is there a shift in society that's making it harder to talk? Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, my name is Andrew, and for the last almost 30 years, I've had the pleasure of helping people from all walks of life to do better with their mental health, their inner life, to become sustainable. Thanks for being here on the channel today. Let's go to today's episode. Gents, Anakin, Dave, Mick, Doug, thanks for joining me. We're talking about men's issues. We're discussing all the stuff that men are facing, men of all ages, especially middle-aged men. So I want to start off with something pretty broad, and then we'll just see where we go. Why are men struggling? We're hearing stories about it. We're hearing about mental health issues. We're hearing about all kinds of battles. Why are our men struggling seemingly more than ever?
I think it's probably, to some degree, it's just guys don't open up.
Right. Yeah.
Not like women. You know, I mean, women are talkers, right?
Sure.
They connect at a different level, but guys are more jovial around how they interact.
Right.
So trying to sense where someone's at in that can be really difficult.
Yeah. So you're saying the struggle's a silent struggle a lot of the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the culture we grow up in is adversarial for guys.
Right.
And we're just taught to view other guys as, you know, the enemy almost, you know, that you're competing with them.
Yes.
And I think that naturally creates a sense of isolation.
Yes.
You know, you never know who you're dealing with or whether you're actually dealing with the truth or...
Yes.
Yeah, so it's...
Well, there's an interconnectedness there, even just between those two thoughts, isn't there? Like if guys are trained by environment or directly to be a bit silent, a bit suppressed with their thoughts, and then combine that with, you know, this... You know, we are living in a combative society, especially
absolutely.
bigger cities. Commuting is a struggle, and cost of living and all this kind of stuff. What do you think? You know, is that an environmental thing? Is it a family history thing? Why are men in that state?
Oh, I think it's a bit of both. I think in the sense of like your environment, like your workplace could be, you know, depending on the trade, could be very competitive. I went from, you know, working in a corporate environment, which is very like cutthroat. It came to like May every year. It was like budget time, and you either had your job the next day or you didn't. And even like mates I'd work with wouldn't like look at you because they just wanted to get the job done, make sure they had a paycheck the next week.
Right.
And then and then family history, just, you know, that's another massive rabbit hole just then in itself.
Yes.
Just, you know, people could, you know, not have a father, or they have like a distant father, or, you know, had a living father. Just matters in that sense of, you know, the combination of those kind of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're off to a flying start. We've got fatherlessness, isolation, men being adversarial. Mick, what do you want to hit us with? Why are men struggling?
Well, from my perspective, I grew up with a father, strong grandfather as well.
Yep.
So I would say I agree with all of that stuff, but the other side too is we were taught to be strong.
Yeah, okay.
You've got to have it all together for your wife, for your family.
Yes.
And in our family as well, we're big on the generations.
Right.
So I've got to have it together for my kids and my kids' kids,
Okay.
so they look up to me.
Yes.
So I would say that can also be an aspect, because you want to come across as strong.
Yes.
I don't want to show weakness.
Right.
And it's been a battle for myself sometimes as well to...
Okay.
I'm one to talk to people that I trust.
Sure.
A few years ago, getting outside help just from a counsellor to start discussing things and they see things from a different perspective was a challenge for me,
Right.
you know, as well, because you've got to be seen to have it all together.
Yeah, okay.
You've got to be seen to be strong. And
Yes.
I think that is something men can definitely battle with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know your family.
Yeah.
I know it's a strong family, it's a loving family, etc. But I wonder, could you dive in a moment to that whole generational expectation?
Yep.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but talk to us about ethnicity as well.
Yep.
And culture.
Yep.
What's the tie-in between all of that and why the net result ends up we're a bit locked down, we can't talk properly?
So if I go to my grandfather, he's no longer with us. He came here in the 60s and Italian background.
Yep.
And back then, Italian background is You're the provider of the house. You're the man of the house.
Yep.
You're the man of your family.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And you've got it all together. Even if you don't, you've got it all together.
Yeah, right. Okay.
We're also seen as not being perfect. You do have your flaws. Back then, times were very different as well.
Sure.
And I think all of that combines to this man that's just the way it is.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So all the flaws, that's just who we are.
Right.
Now, myself, 2 generations later, and, you know, we've got 4 or 5 generations now of Christians as well, and we're very proud of all of that. As the generation's gone on, I believe we have become more open.
Okay.
So we've got the flaws. I believe my grandfather also started to recognise that later in his life.
Right.
Not that he made big changes, but you could see and you could sense from himself and his attitude. And
Yes.
or he turned into this man that became so teary all the time and full of emotion,
Wow.
which he never showed when he was younger. So the times change. You got to also remember there was war back then. They went through, you know, the times were just totally different.
Yeah.
He left Italy by himself, left my father and his wife there for, you know, 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
Came back over on ships. Totally different times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to be strong. You don't have a choice.
Right.
Now we try to be a bit like that, but times have also changed on the outside
Yes.
of what we're being told, you know, from TV shows, from the news.
Sure.
You know, I distance myself a lot sometimes because I can't handle that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Because, you know, you got all the emotions going on in yourself of who you
Yes.
should be, who you once were from your, you know, your father and your grandfather.
Yes.
And then who am I today?
Right. Yep.
And for my kids.
It's a lot.
You know, my son's being raised in the home the way we want to, but the noises outside the home too for him is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of layers there, isn't there? And
Yeah.
I want to pick up on that general comment you made there and maybe bounce to you, Doug. Family history and generations. Like, I think we all know that has an impact. That's pretty obvious, right? That's a no-brainer. But maybe pick a point there for us, Doug. Like, how does that shape us? Like, how much does that play into who we think we are and who we think we're expected to be, and you know, all of those perspectives? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's enormous. My father came to Australia 54 from Germany,
Right.
You know, and it was only sort of in his the latter part of his life when he was 75 he started to open up about how traumatic that was and how devastating it was.
Wow.
So he brought all that, you know, into the family home. So, you know, grew up with a, you know, cold, focused father, you know, and high expectations, you know, be a man, be strong, you know, don't show tears. And that is your norm. You know, for me, that was this is what life is like. Right. You know, and it was only after I left home and sort of got out into a broader space, it's like, hang on a moment, you know, there's actually a different way of showing up. And coupled with, I think, we're not actually taught how to be emotional. We're not actually taught how to actually be in touch with or aware of, you know, I'm feeling something. You know, we're taught to, you know, do the job, get a career, be smart, get knowledge, you know, be adversarial, be fit, be strong.
Yes.
And there's this whole raft of our intellect and emotional life and spiritual life, which doesn't get attended to in mainstream culture.
True.
Yeah.
So you get to middle age, or now I'm sort of approaching the afternoon. And there's a lot of catch up to do. Like even at my age, the amount of reading I'm doing, just getting connected with, you know, being an aware human being.
Yes.
You know, being a man in you know, the culture that we're living in now, which is very you know, we were talking about podcasts earlier. There's information everywhere.
Yes.
And the difficulty we have now is, what can you trust?
Yeah.
Who can you trust?
Right.
Where am I actually standing? You mentioned before, it's like, where am I in the world? And how do I relate to what's coming to me?
Yeah,
Filter
absolutely.
out,
There's so many juxtapositions, isn't there? You know, as you guys are saying, between be strong but get in touch with your emotions. You know, be stoic but be soft enough for your children. And are we Are we as men inventing this in our minds? Or is this a reality that, you know, there's these difficult places to straddle, even as coming from where our family has been and trying to appropriate that into today's modern world? Is it in our head or is it real, Dave?
Look, I think it's real.
Right.
I think it is. I think we are facing a reality. It's a shift in society, if you like, with it.
Yeah.
That men are waking up a little bit more and starting to realise that, you know, the way things worked isn't necessarily going to be the pathway forward. Right. And I think what we need is just, it only takes a few good men or a few brave guys to start speaking about this stuff.
Yes.
And all of a sudden we can see a bit of a shift in men's lives.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely. It seems to me that you know, as you say, the podcasts, and there's so much more information out there than before, it seems as though we are doing better. And when I say we, I mean men, I mean middle-aged men, I mean society. But I think we've still got a long way to go on the skill aspect, right? You know, so men are starting to talk.
Yep.
I mean, it's not that long ago, and I'm old enough to remember this, where if you sat 5 blokes together on a couch like this and we had a great old chat about our emotions, you know, we may have been labelled a few different types of things and people and all the rest of it, because, you know, there was so much suppression of you shouldn't talk and you can't talk and why would you talk and all these kinds of things. But we know the result that creates. And I want to sort of use that to pivot a little bit, right? And let's talk about some really serious... Appreciate you joining in the conversations we're having with men about real issues. Love for you to subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and definitely leave a comment, make a suggestion about other subjects that we can talk about on the channel. Whatever you do, make sure you follow along to the next episode, where we're going to be talking about the tragic issue of male suicide that's going on in society right now. We're also going to touch on the factor that hopelessness plays on that issue of suicide and how that affects men. Also, we're talking about how really the reality is everyone is in some measure of pain, and the fact that we need to talk about it. When we do talk about it, it helps us and it helps to unlock other people to get them talking as well. I'd love to see you in that next episode. Bye for now.